Welcome back to the Budget Gamer channel where we've got your indie games covered, and today we're going to be looking at an indie game that actually won out on Switch over Xbox and PS4. Though Hunter's Legacy was originally released on a multitude of consoles and platforms, Hunter's Legacy the Purrfect Edition just came to the Switch a couple days ago. And while the overall story and gameplay is pretty much the same, there are a few tweaks and polishes that really do make it a much more exciting game. Playing as Ikki, a cat-like huntress of the Un-Amak people, you take it upon yourself to get back the Fang of Alliance, which has been stolen, causing the village of the proud anthropomorphized cat people to fall into decay. And though this was pretty much the sum total of the story for the earlier version of the game, the version on the Switch has much more story and monologue and a little bit backstory and lore, filled in sporadically by ancient etchings left on tomes and monuments throughout the game. So accordingly, as you play, if you feel like reading these tomes, the deeper and more intricate the story goes. But despite the depth of the winding story and the bright cartoon-like graphics, this game actually is a fairly solid Metroid-Vania. Built on platforming with a very open non-linear progression, the whole game lets you explore pretty much anywhere you could possibly want to go. And though it is 2D, it's definitely not a side-scroller. However, the entirety of the gameplay is divided into multiple areas on a given world map. But though the initial starting points on the map are divided, every single area is actually well interconnected. However, the individual vastness of each area can be somewhat daunting, so I'm really glad the developers threw in this little mini-map. And while your character is controlled with the left thumbstick, the mini-map itself can be manipulated with the right. And this effectively allows you to cruise around the map and kind of see ahead of time where paths and even treasures could be laid out in front of you. And like any good Metroid-Vania, this massive and interconnecting world does have different environments that change the deeper you go. However, these environmental changes aren't done just for uniqueness sake with no rhyme or reason, they're actually connected to major gaming elements. After the Fang of Alliance was initially stolen by the Goblin King, he sealed off the path behind himself with a magical seal that requires 3 elemental orbs to break it. And in a sense, breaking this barrier then becomes your main quest, and takes you through forests and frozen volcanoes to obtain these elemental orbs, as well as forcing you to confront new bosses and unlock new powers. Initially starting the game, you feel like you're floundering and incredibly underpowered, and you always see areas that you want to go to, but you just can't for some reason or another. But playing through the game and finding ore to upgrade your weapons and beating bosses to upgrade new abilities is completely game-changing and really makes you the one in control of your environment. However, while these boosts and bonuses might be game-breaking at first, the game does get harder and require more and more accurate use of these new skills the further you play. And perfect timing of your jumps and dashes will be imperative to make it to that final boss room. And I'd have to say that one of my favorite areas, even though it was the most frustrating, was the area what I'm calling the swinging hammers. It required you to have incredible timing and amazing character control, but it wasn't for no reason, and it was really necessary further along in that same level. And being forced to confront these swinging hammers over and over until I got it right really made me feel like I developed as a player. The boss fights in Hunter's Legacy as well can take a lot of finesse to get a handle on, and each one was definitely envisioned with its own combat style in mind. However, there is something that I didn't really appreciate about the boss fights, and that is the fact that if you purchase one single HP upgrade at any point in the game, you can quite literally just stand on top of the boss and wail on them because they'll die before you. And while initially I actually did spend a lot of time trying to beat the bosses the right way, I end up just tanking and slashing away until they died. However, had I actually tried to focus on the tactics to beat the individual bosses, I probably would have been set up a little bit better for the final boss, because you really can't do that. The final boss is a real challenge, and no spoilers, but yeah, you're not just gonna sit there and slash it to death. And playing through the boss fights over and over and over, I did actually start to notice the game's music. And I'd have to say that this probably speaks a lot in the game's favor, because music done wrong is always really noticeable, but music done right will fit the tones and dynamics and emotions of gameplay and probably not even be noticeable. However, as the levels in Hunter's Legacy can be so massive, you may actually notice the music repeat once or twice. But such a small negative note to the game can't really hold a candle to a lot of the positives. Yes, you may notice the music repeat on occasion, and yes, you can wail on the initial bosses just to make it through, but even that can be seen as a benefit because it does help to drive game progression until you actually develop the skills necessary to take on that final boss. Additionally, the graphics are sharp and well rendered, and the character animations are really on point. The key fundamental features of any platformer are character movement, and those are solid. The RPG elements such as weapon and character upgrades are really intuitive, and the maps and menus are clean and uncluttered. Overall, I'd have to say say that while Hunter's Legacy may have gotten some critiques, the Hunter's Legacy Purrfect Edition definitely shines. And I'd have to say it's probably one of the most underrated Metroidvania platformers out there. And even though it can be beaten in about 4 hours, it does have some solid replayability with the Game Plus mode, and I'm just really happy I got a chance to play it. But anyway, that about wraps up the review of Hunter's Legacy Purrfect Edition for the Switch. So if you enjoyed the review or found it helpful, feel free to throw me a like or a comment to show your support, and don't forget to click that little bell icon when you subscribe to stay updated with the latest content. New and unique indies are coming out literally every day, so there's always going to be something new to find right here. But anyway, this has been Budget Gamers. As always, thanks for watching.